Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 250th milestone episode of CSA Bangalore chapter Cyber AI Insights and Power of Knowing Forums, Knowledge Nexus Talks, Tech that moves you, ideas that scale you, a collaborative podcast series. Today, we celebrate your incredible support with 14K followers on YouTube and a million views on social media platforms. From cloud infrastructure to cybersecurity to growth strategies and leadership insights, our four pillars have the professional world inside. And today, the topic of discussion is AI driven cyber wars and how regional conflicts are rewriting the rule book of cyber defense. Your go to podcast on tech, cybersecurity, strategy, growth. I am your host, Prem Kumar AS today, and we will explore how the regional conflicts are shaping the cybersecurity with AI. A special welcome to all tuned with CSA chapter and Power of Knowing collaborative podcast episode 250 on LinkedIn Live. Thank you for being part of our journey here to continue growth and success. To have the topic discussed, we have the honor of Dr. Ram Kumar ji, a cyber security leader, LinkedIn top voice on cybersecurity 5x, certified corporate director, and an author. Without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed speaker to the podcast and let's dive into the topic. Sir, welcome to our podcast, sir. Thank you for honoring us on our 250th episode and joining us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prem, for inviting me over. Congratulations to you and your team for this amazing milestone. Running podcast for 250 episodes is no easy. It's no easy task, and you have come a long way. Very nice to be part of this journey. I think this is my fifth or sixth time. I'm honored to be on this, Power of Knowing forum. Congratulations again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, join. Let's start with sir. With the recent changes that are happening in the regional front of any political environment, what if the next war is not about land but about logic? How are AI offensive systems changing what conflict ever even meant today?
A very interesting topic. Even the topic for this episode, AI-driven cyber wars, how
Hmm.
regional conflicts are rewriting the cyber defense is
Yeah.
very interesting. Had a whale of time, learning about this in depth. Even before AI came on the scene, we had cyber wars, right? So it's
Yeah.
been going on at a low key, but what made it all the more prominent, the cyber wars, was the Russian invasion of Ukraine 3 years back, and the conflict is still continuing, but with the AI flavor. Same thing with the Israel-Hamas war, started in October 2023, and now the latest is the Operation Sindoor, right? Now, the notion that the next war being about logic and not about land, it actually powerfully encapsulates, right, the shift driven by AI. AI is today changing the face of cyber technology, especially cyber security. And the next offensive will be driven by AI. It is already happening, but at a very low key. It's not too much publicity, right? Because the bad guys, the threat actors, especially the ones that have endless access to state support and resources, what we call as the nation state supported APT gangs, advanced persistent threat gangs, they have already used AI. They are using AI. AI is both a tool as well as a target in that sense. Now, how this is changing the meaning of conflict fundamentally is the shifting of the battlefield, right, from physical to digital. So you don't have to really use bombs to cripple a nation. If you target their critical infrastructure like banking systems, power grid, water, or railway network, nuclear power plants, that itself will make it very devastating for their country, for the targeted countries. And borderless conflict, already internet made geography history, but today cyberspace, as we all know, with the power of AI, it doesn't matter where the perpetrators are sitting and driving the attacks using AI technologies. So the entire idea of national sovereignty and conflict is blurred because of the borderless nature of the conflict. The other aspect is how do you redefine weapons and combatants? One is code is a weapon, right? We have AI algorithms that can be used for malicious activities like cyber attacks. You have very sophisticated malware available, and also you can manipulate data, right? That being, these are the primary tools or weapons that threat actors are going to use. And the line of your code lines would be very lethal to create havoc in the opponents. The other thing is anonymity and what you can attribute to the actors. You don't know who is actually targeting this, launching these AI powered attacks on your infrastructure. And it's very sophisticated, and it's kind of a cat and mouse game. And if it is especially state sponsored attacks, it's very difficult to find out because they have very advanced tooling and technology or methodology to cover up. The other further aspects, I would say, another a few more aspects I was wanted to speak about is the fundamental change in the nature of attacks. One is the speed and the scale. AI brings in that speed and scale for any sort of attacks, right? And the level of automation. So when attacks are automated, you don't need a human element to actually sit and monitor or perform any tasks. So then the precision and the targeting, when that is also changing fundamentally. And AI systems are actually highly adaptable and they are learning, right? And the information warfare that is going on to manipulate information, provide misinformation and propaganda, all these things we are seeing in the aftermath of Operation Sindhu, how Pakistan tried to manipulate information, tried to tell that we India lost critical military assets like jets, and some military bases were attacked. All were proved to be wrong. They were all campaign part of Pakistan propaganda against India, right? And the blurring the lines between peace and war. You don't have to explicitly declare from today on we are attacking. It can actually happen on the go without any declaration. It could be a persistent engagement without declaring openly, and it can be a subkinetic war which has their own strategic objectives to fulfill, right? So these are the some of the key aspects. The other thing you need to keep in mind is the challenges that the international law and norms face, right? Because you cannot attribute who these attackers are. You cannot pinpoint and take them to the international court or look for justice. Your traditional, well-established rules of engagement, everything goes for a toss, right? So when you don't know who it is actually launching these attacks, it's very hard to identify and quantify. This is the loss that we are having. And importantly, to conclude, any AI driven cyber attacks are fundamentally changing the way the conflicts are happening today. One is they dematerialize the battlefield. You don't need a physical battlefield. Second, they redefine the weapons and the combatants, right? As I said, codes are the weapon, and combatants are the people who are behind AI, and they introduce unprecedented speed and scale and automation, and they are also highly adaptive to learning. They adapt the attack techniques and tactics, right? And blur the line between peace and war. It can be persistent engagement. And finally, it is a big challenge to the existing legal and ethical frameworks. So that's my take on this question.
Sir, very brief information that you shared. Now, what I think is what you said is very important. Now, you don't need a person to be attacked to do the attack, and that warfare is going to be different. If I want to understand, if A becomes a general and the code
Okay.
becomes a soldier, who, who writes the rules of the war, sir?
Rules of the war is written by the perpetrators who are, because they get the advantage, right? They have the first mover or the first attacker advantage. In fact, this is a very profound and critical question, and the answer is not simple. It's very complex, and it is evolving. It keeps changing. So when you say the AI is the general or the leader and the code is a soldier, the rules of war completely change. One is um, your there are multiple aspects. One is humans. When it comes to who's behind it, of course people. Either it could be the leaders running the countries and international bodies. They can actually be in charge of how to start a war using AI, a low key war, right? Or it could be legal experts and people who are advocating ethics, right? War ethics. So they also can play a critical role in making the policies, the way they do public disclosure. Yes, we did this attack, kind of open disclosure, right? Then, of course, you have the military leadership and policy makers, right? These people are the ones who are actually uh, on one aspect. The other aspect is the technical people, the programmers, the developers. So when they code AI, we all know AI code suffers from bias, right? Implicit bias also happens because of the people who are coding AI systems and the design choices and constraints, right? They all have constraints. You can't make AI to be extremely well designed and foolproof. It also has its own issues. And we do not have ethical frameworks in place for AI. In bits and pieces, we do have some legislations, but overall, across the world order, we have not adopted a single framework for how to have ethical or responsible AI yet. The other aspect is the nature of AI itself, because AI is evolving. The kind of learning and adaptation. It will also learn from all these, low-key AI-driven wars that is going on or it will happen in the future. And importantly, the challenges when it comes to writing the rules of AI warfare. You will have a lot of challenges. Some of them I can think of is the how do you translate abstract concepts like ethics and into code when you're coding, the developers, how they will do it in terms of the problem lies in how do you translate complex ethical priority principles, right? Something like avoidance of unnecessary suffering in conflict, right? How do you avoid it? And the other thing is how do you ensure human control and accountability? Accountability is very important, but in terms of war, they say in war, love and war is fair, right? They say there is a saying like that: all is fair in love and war. So, what about accountability? That is a big issue. Do we have a overriding kill switch when AI goes out of hand? And whether the people who are controlling AI do they have a kill switch? And other thing is the speed of technology changes and advancement. So AI keeps changing. A rapid pace of development and research and development is going on. So how this will evolve, we don't know. There is always a regulatory gap because of the regulations unable to keep pace with the changes in technology. That we all know. And finally, there's a lack of transparency and explainability, right? We say ethical AI, responsible AI. One of the core principle is the principle of explainability. Now, when you have these challenges for rules writing in AI warfare, AI is always a black box. They will never make it explicit. They will never tell you how this decision was arrived, right? So you have AI powered hardware missiles, right? It takes arbitrary decisions. You have a decision making algorithm, and that decision can impact common people, like innocent people. Say a missile is fired due to AI decision making, and it falls into it targets a crowded market or a residential area. What is explainability here, right? So these are all some of the ethical aspects as to rewriting the rules of war in the era of AI. So, in how I want to conclude this question is, um, people, I mean, the humans behind AI will remain the ultimate rule makers. Now, a lot of it goes into the makeup and the mindset of people who are programming or coding this AI systems, right? So, inherently, the bias would be there. And the challenge lies in having a ethical guidelines, which everyone would agree, and there should be some legal frameworks as well, and technical safeguards like the kills which I was referring to. So it's a multidisciplinary effort, and you need all the stakeholders like ethicists and legal scholars, military leaders, technology experts, everyone to sit together, including the policymakers, to define this. So that's my take on this question.
Sir, lot when we talk about ethics and stuff, we'll have to take responsibility. Is what you are saying.
Yeah,
It is becoming more automated way of looking at what cyber crimes are happening. Is what you are saying, sir. Now,
true, true.
how can you think of a recent incident that looked like a technical glitch, but silently actually it was declared as a cyber war? Any incident that you can recall?
Not in the recent past, but maybe during the just before COVID, February
Mhm,
2020, there was a news item stating that in
mhm.
Mumbai there was a blackout, unexplained power cut. It was a blackout across the city, and it was very unusual. And when they actually investigated days later, they found that it was a cyber attack done by APT gangs aligned with the uh, the Chinese army, the People's Liberation Army, and they had carried out this pointed targeted attack against the power grid of Mumbai city, and that actually downed our electricity supply, right? So like this there are a
I
lot of
think
instances that are not.
recently also I heard somewhere in the European side there was a blackout for power. I'm not sure whether it is a cyber attack
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what, but
whether it is
that was
cyber attack
for
or, yeah,
three
we don't
days
know.
they were blacked out. Yeah.
Portugal,
Yes. Okay.
Portugal. Yeah, we are yet to
Yes.
hear the report. Portugal had a major attack a few weeks back or a few days back. I'm not sure, and people struggled. Even it impacted the normal course of life.
Yeah.
Including airports had a delayed flight
One of
departures and
our
arrivals.
podcast
All of it.
speaker, one of our podcast
Hmm.
speaker from Portugal, while we were discussing and doing podcast, he said that pointer and said we had an issue. There is a problem
Hmm.
with our power. We don't know, but we
Hmm.
are not getting any hint. He did not mention whether it is a cyber attack or what, but
Yeah,
that's what.
yeah. Yeah, because only after a thorough investigation you will come across. But this kind of silent cyber war incidents, which
Mhm.
nobody can detect immediately whether it is a cyber attack, there are some characteristics. How do you classify them or categorize them? Right. One is they target critical infrastructure like the power grid, or it could be water systems, financial networks like your banking systems or healthcare, or even it could be at a very higher level your nuclear power plants, anything it could be. Then the sophistication and stealth with which they launch this, right? It's all custom malware they have, and even your normal traditional cyber defense tools and technologies cannot detect. and unexplained and widespread description, like what happened in the Mumbai case in 2020. It was very unexplained because when they investigated, the power authorities said there was no issue. It was not a scheduled maintenance or any equipment failure. But when they discovered, in the investigation, they found out that this was a cyber attack. And it's kind of a timing, also strategic timing and geopolitical context, right? There are any geopolitical tensions happening, it will impact on the states that are involved, the countries that are involved. And there is no clear financial motive, right? So the end of the day, it's these APT attacks. They're not looking for money, but they are looking for more of a disruption or the economic sabotage to prove a point, like what a conventional military would do. These people are doing with a cyber attack. And other aspect could be you cannot attribute to who recently, uh, Pakistan also was sending propagating malware through WhatsApp. So we also saw that warnings, people were saying, don't open this file which says Hillary the virus, something like that, right? So all these APT groups are also propagating all these thing, and it could lead to critical virus, infection across and disruptions. So normally the targeted sectors for these kind of attacks, it could be in the Indian context. Normally, the government websites, including armed forces and defense units, manufacturing PSU units, right? Ministry of Defense, all of this, whichever is involved directly, whichever is involved directly in the war or defense of the nation, and also whichever is found to be prestigious, something like our nuclear installations, right? And critical infra is actually targeted, and apart from that, financial platforms. Now, not just banks, it could be fintech companies, digital wallets, stock exchanges. Today it's the fintech scenario is completely changed, right?
Hmm.
And we already spoke about defense PSUs. They are also targets, and of course educational institutions can also be targeted. We routinely see, right, in the news that the website is down, there was a
Hmm.
major malware infection. These are all examples of that. And attack methods could be your normal malware campaign or distributed DOS attacks, DDoS attacks. Web-based defacements is something everyone can see. Phishing
Hmm.
attacks are also there. GPS spoofing. There was a case where pilots were reporting to the ATC that their coordinates were changed when they flew over a particular airspace, and they
Hmm.
attributed it to GPS spoofing, and it can disorient a pilot. It can lead to fatal crashes also. Very dangerous consequences the craft may have if the pilot is not experienced and they have fallback options how to maneuver the flight, right? And misinformation campaigns are going on in social media like WhatsApp and Facebook, Instagram. They may peddle fake stories, right? But all these things are actually happening in a low-key war, cyber war, which is powered by AI. And there are also claims of data breaches. Sometimes these hacker groups also can break into organizations. One instance I can remember is the Mumbai International Airport, right? The Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport was targeted, and the hacker groups claimed that they actually exfiltrated the data, and there was it was available in darknet. Even some telecom companies were also targets, right? And these
Hmm.
are still being investigated. But end of the day, the hacker groups are saying we already done that, because the hacker groups, when you look at their profiles, they'll be aligned to a particular nation state, and we know their intentions and motivations why they are targeting us. So that's my take on this particular question.
Thank you for that, sir. Now, want to understand how are small nations, right, and groups punching above their weight using AI in cyber conflicts, and what are some lessons with this geopolitical conflict? What lessons can India learn from them, or do we have any pointers that? can add value to what systems that we are building up?
Uh, as per me, as far as I have observed, read about this, it is not a very widespread, phenomenon where smaller nations are punching above the weight. If you are talking about referring to Israel, it's a different story. They may be small, but they are very, very advanced in cyber security technologies. Even AI also, they are pioneers. We don't have to talk about their military prowess. It is a completely different ball game. But if you look at countries like North Korea, they effectively use cyber crime, cyber attacks as a tool for making money, kind of ransomware attacks that originate from APT groups aligned with North Korea, right? It is definitely they are punching above their weight because they do not have any means of making money. No, nothing much to export. They don't have enough food. All those issues. So ransomware is the only way they can quickly make money. Now, even in the current Operation Sindhu, just want to remind the operation is still not over because the recent briefing by the military leaders, they are saying it is still on, it is only paused, right?
Hmm.
So even in the current scenario, uh, we are not come across any evidence that small nations are punching above their weight, especially when it comes to using or leveraging AI for conducting cyber attacks. So the focus of reported attacks has been only on the volume and the traditional methods only the Pakistani groups are doing, not AI. That's what my reading is. But in future, there could be very potential ways even small actors could leverage AI because they are also learning. The bad guys are also utilizing AI, right? So as we already spoke, the sophisticated attacks can be automated by the smaller threat actors, and they can also enhance social engineering and phishing attacks. Earlier, we used to say these are all the red flags in a phishing email you can detect, and you have tools to detect phishing emails. Today, when you look at AI generated campaigns, phishing emails, they look very flawless, and all the red flags that we said doesn't matter because they all look very flawless. And today we have uh, technologies like deepfakes. They can actually enhance these attacks, right? And today the malware scenario has changed very much from the traditional ones. Today we are in the era of polymorphic malware, which adapts itself, right? And very difficult to detect and neutralize. So even when you are well equipped, handling these kind of coordinated botnet attacks or swarm attacks is very tough because they are well sophisticated and multi-vector attacks, right? That can happen. And the biggest problem for a free country, I mean, a country that follows democracy, democratic principles, democratic form of governance, is the targeted disinformation campaigns, right? Because of our country is very huge. We have 140 crore population, and the amount of news that get generated every day is mind-boggling. We don't know which is true, which is false. So disinformation can play a critical role, and the zero-day vulnerabilities also can be exploited very very fast in this kind of scenario when you use AI, right? And the threat actors normally, when they leverage AI, they look for how low cost it can become and what is the impact. Impact can be high, the cost can be low.
Hmm.
So AI tools are getting more cheaper, right? So what India as a nation can learn, as a country we can learn, is these small actors are always a pain, right? But which no country would openly acknowledge that they are being harbored by us or supported by us. But problem is they are very painful. They are going to be a problem in the future, and need to invest heavily. India as a country has to invest heavily in AI-driven cyber defense. A lot of research and analysis they can do, and build the capability so that you can have capabilities like AI-driven threat intel platform, AI-powered IDS, IPS systems, right? And AI for automated incident response and machine learning for anomaly detection. So all these things is possible. And I think as government institutions and defense institutions, they need to focus more on very robust cyber hygiene. The basics, the foundational security has to be strengthened. The rigor and discipline has to be inculcated. It is not just a one-time thing, and threat intel sharing collaboration has to be strengthened with all the stakeholders, not just among government agencies, but also with critical infra operators and private sector wherever they have such information. So that will actually help a world of good. And also we need to invest in security skills and training, cyber security, especially in the realm of AI and ML, right? Uh, do we have that capability today, at least in sensitive defense establishments? That's a big question mark. And we have to invest in R&D in AI security, especially for national defense, right?
Mm.
And this can be done with the help of private public partnership. If public sector alone cannot do, definitely can collaborate with the industry, with private R&D institutions and academia, definitely. So this can actually help. Apart from learning from global best practices, you can collaborate with global agencies or global institutions which have definitely set a higher benchmark and work with them so that we can secure our defenses from AI driven cyber attacks. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, wanted to understand one thing is how does AI enabled nation to weaponize perception before even it fires a shot?
That is primarily your psychological warfare. AI already has introduced deep fakes and misinformation, right? So
Mm.
the perception management is very important. If you look at the Operation Sindoor, the way Pakistan was trying to portray, it was purely a perception game, as if nothing happened to them, and they downed some few Rafale jets. They also, one point in time, if you had observed carefully, they said they have one of our women pilots in their custody. So all
Mm.
kind of misinformation to psych out our defense personnel, right? So this kind of information coming in, it is very they're trying to play the mind games and win the perception war. So AI, when you bring in AI, it actually empowers the nation to weaponize perception before a physical fire shot or is fired. And you can also uh, leverage the capabilities across multiple interconnected domains. One is when we speak about very sophisticated disinformation and propaganda campaigns, AI generated content comes in the top, right? So earlier, uh, during the Kumbh Mela, we were amused to see all AI generated content of Elon Musk and Russian
Yeah,
president, all of them. That was fun. But
yeah.
in a war situation, it is not fun at all. It is very serious. We don't know which is which is true, which is deepfake video. We don't know. It can be very lethal in uh, changing our ideas and our morale for the armed forces when this kind of fake info is coming in. And hyper targeting AI algorithms can, we all know how they can capable to analyze vast amount of data, right? So they can identify specific demographic group based on the data. They can even identify individuals who are very susceptible to particular narratives. So you look at Facebook and Instagram, the kind of influencers, the kind of content they post. Recently, as part of the cleanup, government has arrested few YouTubers, right, and people who claim themselves to be influencers. So these are all assets that enemies develop. How you can change perception of the masses. Whereas in this case, this particular individual, who was having a very high viewership, and she was a influencer. She had gone to many times to Pakistan, at least 2 or 3 times, and gone to China. And when they looked at, and she was in all her videos, she was praising Pakistan. And when they investigated, they found the kind of money she makes and the lifestyle she has, especially to fund trips to China and Pakistan. It didn't add up, right?
Mm.
So we have to be very careful with these kind of influencers who could be manipulated or who could be spy, right? As in this case, and sentiment manipulation. So all these generic tools itself today have the chatbots have sentiment meter, sentiment analytics they do, right? So when you have advanced AI technologies, they can analyze and even very subtly influence your online sentiment, right? People in a real will not have that sentiment. When they go online, they will have such sentiment. So these are all ways to shape a public discourse, and potentially this can actually create a feeling of unrest, or you don't have trust in government institutions. All these things can be very dangerous. The second aspect is the social engineering attacks. We already spoke about it. So this can be very personalized and can be targeting very sensitive individuals like military personnel or people who work in public sector with defense units, right? Or deepfake impersonation can also happen, and they can also automate this influence, through some AI powered chatbots and virtual agents, right? And normally in even in Kautilya's Arthashastra, he talks about manipulating minds of people, what in modern warfare it is called the psychological operations, right?
Cyclops.
Psychops. So
Psychops.
psychops also can be manipulated in a big way at a huge scale, right? So AI can set the narrative for how cultural nuances they can analyze and manipulate. What are the historical grievances people have, or social divisions that a country may have? So all that can be analyzed, and effectively a psychop can be campaign can be designed and launched, and the population can be swayed by such information that they would be consuming without thinking whether it makes sense or not. And predictive behavioral modeling that we are already using in our cyber defense system like DLP and all, right? So this also can be used by the threat actors to part of their psychops. They can do it, and they can also launch across multiple platforms, right? Multiple platforms they can coordinate and launch media channels and online social media platforms. All of this they can do. So these all make it all the more uh, you know changing the meaning of conflict. Conflict, there is a target, and you have two actors trying to win over each other. Whereas here it is shifting from kinetic domain to the cognitive domain, right? So it is all about the collective consciousness of the nation and how it is getting manipulated. And as I said, cyber warfare using AI, you don't need to openly declare from this day we are launching an attack. It can be a even in peacetime, they can be launching blurring lines. It could be Pakistan's notorious ambition, or their philosophy: cut India with thousand cuts, right? Attack India with thousand cuts. So maybe the last cut can actually be very fatal or very lethal. That is their ideology. So the same thing, a low key cyber warfare powered by AI tools can actually be very lethal in the long run, even without us realizing the consequences. And social cohesion and trust also can be manipulated. So we have seen a lot more communal unrest in peaceful areas, right? Because of rumors. So same thing AI can replicate, and you gain a strategic advantage without physical engagement. That's beauty. Without firing a single shot or launching a bomb or a missile, you can actually win over. And as I said earlier, we cannot attribute who the perpetrators are or the threat actors are. You don't know where that psychops is, who's launching, right? So the problem is it's kind of a digital siege on the minds of the victims, adversaries, and the whole aim is to the objective is to weaken the will, create internal divisions, and undermine the strategic capabilities of a normally in a traditional military confrontation, you know all these things, but in an unconventional confrontation you will not know. So it's very dangerous. That is my take on this question.
Sir, you have mentioned it in very brief terms again. Now, what I see also is one of the threats, what you are talking about, Elon Musk being on the Kumbh Mela stuff, right? Or Bill Gates being there, and some of the other movie actors also were
Yeah,
AI generated images saying that they took a bath there and stuff like that. Now, you use also, my view is also that you have this lot of YouTube faceless channels. You don't
yeah,
know where these channels are bought up, how the data is coming up. It is all AI driven, right? So looking at that pointer, now, are we saying data is the new oil, then cyber defines is the refinery? And how vulnerable is this refinery in today's geographical heat?
definitely. We've been. It's a very cliched term phrase when we say data is a new oil, but with the AI coming in, definitely it holds true.
Mm,
Primarily, I look at it from three perspectives. Want to explore concepts like how it impacts your data integrity and your data pipeline and attacks on your behavioral data, right? It's a very good analogy when you say data is a new oil and then cyber defense is a refinery, right? The first thing is which areas are very vulnerable, as I said, data integrity, right? So we all know data integrity is about the accuracy, consistency, and the trustworthiness of data. When that is compromised, then that is going to have very serious consequences, especially in a geopolitical context, right? And it undermines the trust and decision-making capabilities because the data is not, trustworthy at all. And the vulnerabilities are, it could be a silent sabotage. So your geopolitical opponents and adversaries, they may not you know aim to steal the data, but they may alter the data, manipulate the data, and something like your financial transactions. It can bring in economic instability or tampering with sensor readings in critical infra, right? Something like your power grids or water supply systems. They can also create havoc and confusion and or malfunction or even physical damage. Initially, it may appear like a technical glitch, but it is all done by AI-powered cyber attacks. And the second thing is the we already spoke about concept of disinformation, how it can lead to destabilization. So when you have AI-powered cyber attacks, they can facilitate a large-scale automated manipulation of the people's the data set, which can actually create havoc in people's day-to-day lives, right? Because this information which you are using for public info or intelligence analysis or training models, they all can be corrupted. The concept called truth decay, I'm not sure how many of our viewers have heard this. So if core data sources are compromised, then your society can lose a common ground for facts, right? Lead to widespread confusion and distrust in institutions. For example, if your electricity bill data is all gone haywire because of a AI-powered cyber attack, they manipulate electricity board database, and all our electricity bills, power bills, are going haywire. And then you go and question the electricity board; they are clueless. So end of the day, you lose trust in the institution itself because it is done by a threat actor. And misinformation can also be done at scale across the country, across different channels, different mediums. They can actually provide false data or manipulated scientific studies. Have you ever, I mean, I'm talking about before AI era, there have been allegations about changing the food habits of people, the lifestyle of the Indian people. In India, we know every 50 miles or so, there's change in the food habits, your dialect you speak, the same language you speak in a different dialect or a slang, right?
Yeah.
Your culture, everything changes. Whereas suddenly somebody comes and throws a new product in the market, floods the market, say something like your cornflakes, and says
Mm.
whatever traditional food you are eating is all having health issues for you. Better to eat this, and they bring in some scientific studies and surveys to manipulate the mind, stating this American university has done a survey. This is what they say. This is the most healthy breakfast. The idli that we have very commonly in the South Indian breakfast is not common in North India or Northeast India. Because every region has its own, practices when it comes to food, dictated by weather, the geography, the climate systems, and preferences, even your soil topography. Everything dictates, right? And you cannot have one size fits all food item saying this is what you should eat from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So all these attempts have been going on even before the AI era. Now think how a AI powered disinformation campaign has a power to manipulate public opinion and sow discord, right? You may have a great opinion about the government or the decision making of the key people. But misinformation can actually completely change the view. That is very dangerous. That is playing your games in your mind and changing your mind. It's brainwashing. And today we have supply chain attacks on data. So that is also AI powered. So in the same terminology that you use, attacker can inject malicious data into the refinery. Refinery is nothing but your systems, and corrupt your oil. That the oil is nothing but the data even before it is processed. So supply chain attacks are also a big risk. And adversarial AI. I'm sure you must have heard when AI is weaponized to attack on other AI systems. We are talking about a scenario where it is AI versus AI, right? So
Right.
this could include data poisoning. We inject malicious data into training data sets so that it corrupts it, and the AI model's behavior itself will change. It could generate incorrect output. That is all the more risky. So when
Right.
I tell many of my students and mentees, don't believe AI output to be sacrosanct and true. It can also be false, right? And model evasion also can happen where you craft inputs designed to bypass an AI driven security systems detection. Prompt engineering also you can manipulate, right? So,
Mm.
what is the geopolitical motivation in this? Is your nation states might try to target data integrity to undermine adversaries' economic stability. They can disrupt military operations or intelligence gathering capabilities. They can also cause civil unrest or erode public confidence in uh, well-established institutions, right? So when it comes to a data pipeline, your data pipeline, if I have to use a term, a phrase, it is a transport and processing your infrastructure. So these are systems, data pipelines are systems which move data from one source or various sources, transform it, and load it onto destination for analysis, storage, or operational use, right? So what are the common vulnerabilities here? Could be the manipulating the you can launch multiple attack points, right? And you can across processing, across uh, transmission, storage, or ingestion, any of these phases they can attack. And supply chain risks, we already seen it. And insider threats, they can also uh, cultivate employees who are disgruntled. uh, we can also cultivate them as spies, right? And they can launch malicious attacks or exfiltrate data or manipulate data. And the other thing is, we do not have complete visibility on monitoring on the data movement in our data pipeline. So this lack of end-to-end visibility can also be used by these threat actors. And we already know about the entire extortion ecosystem due to ransomware attacks, right? So these are also capable. AI systems are capable, and AI can be used for automated exploitation. So you don't need to do it in a manual way. Automation comes in a big way. Now the third aspect we were talking about is the behavioral data, the human element in your refinery's output, so to say, right? So behavioral data could be patterns of user activity, network traffic. It could be biometrics, right? Biometric data, uh, which is increasingly used for security analytics. We have this concept called UEBA, right? User entity behavioral analytics. Then fraud detection, personalization, all of this can be actually targeted. Now, what are the vulnerabilities in this particular behavioral data aspect is they can undermine the security analytics. When you use a UBA system or a XDR system, this can be manipulated. Then identity theft and impersonation also can happen. Then they can also have impact or implications on your privacy. Today we are in the era of DPDP Act. We are in the cusp of the act being notified with rules. It could happen very soon. I'm not sure when though. So this act also specifically protects personal data and including behavioral data uh, that is used for profiling individuals. So attacks on this data can actually lead to mass regulatory fines, violations, and reputational damage. Even if it is not very direct operational disruption may not occur, but this can lead to reputational damage and fines, which nobody wants to do. And you can also weaponize AI models, right? Behavioral data with the AI data models that you have, you can weaponize this training data. You can poison them and result in AI models giving out very biased and incorrect decision making outputs, and also aid the enemies, the adversaries, so to say. So that's my take on this particular question.
Sir, now are we saying rule of traditional cybersecurity now feels obsolete in this AI-powered geopolitical sensitive world?
In a way, it is true, but you can't let the guard down. Both will continue to exist, but only when the AI becomes very mainstream, where the attackers are going to use AI, then you can let go of the traditional ones, right? But in today's terms, you need both. We don't know how far the sophistication will happen with the use of AI, right?
Mm.
So that way, traditional models will continue, but in today's terms, the AI's impact is very huge on especially the perimeter. Today, the perimeter is vanishing, right? Because of cloud adoption and remote work. Today, there are companies which are saying, "Bring your own AI." That
Mm.
kind of that level we have gone, and AI driven attacks are happening, which we already spoke about, and exploits are automated, so no need for a human
Yeah.
this thing. And the other thing is the AI assisted insider threats. Insiders could be manipulated to use some AI tools to exfiltrate data or manipulate the systems, which is extremely difficult to detect by traditional perimeter controls. The other aspect is the geopolitical issues may impact trust in the supply chain, especially when national sovereignty is involved and data residency is there. So, for example, if you cannot rely solely on perimeter security for they may use foreign made software or hardware which creates vulnerability, right? And if a nation states decides to leverage backdoors or compromise supply chains, that also you should be very careful. Must We must have come across this incident where Israel supplied the traditional pages to the Hamas gunmen, right? and those hardware, the pager hardware, was manipulated by Israel, where they had embedded a small amount of explosive, and on a particular day they chose to detonate this, and it caused widespread, people losing lives and having injuries. So all these things can be possible if it is AI powered, and increased state-sponsored activity. That also I see in a geopolitical conflict where AI systems can be used for espionage, right, and sabotage and influence operations. We already spoke about psychops, right, and
Yes.
needless to say, the critical infrastructure can actually be targeted. So that's why there has been a very clear understanding that perimeter security is obsolete, right? The traditional perimeter security. Today we are in the era of zero trust security. So zero trust primarily it's about never trust and always verify. Whereas the traditional one, it was always trusting and then verify. Now it is never trust and always verify. So every device, every user, every application is continuously authenticated, authorized, regardless of its location, whether you are inside or outside the traditional perimeter. So zero trust is the way to go. The adoption has been steadily increasing, and in the end, it's about the long-held assumption that everything inside our network is actually safe. That doesn't hold good anyway, because these all have been demolished or invalidated by the combined forces of AI and geopolitical dynamics, right? So security today should be far more granular, dynamic, and focused on continuous validation of every interaction. That's where zero trust as a concept, as a when you follow this for your implementing your technology architecture, this is going to be handy, and we can actually recognize where these threats come from, uh, and uh, exploit the weaknesses that the traditional perimeter defenses, these were never designed for addressing the modern threats, right? So that's my take on this particular question. Over to you.
Sir, how do we look at uh, more dangerous part is the burnout or the cyber ignorance that is there, and how do leaders balance the two high alert regions like burnout or cyber ignorance? So that's one
Um,
take that I want to look at, sir.
Very, very interesting. I would want to talk about the cyber burnout and cyber ignorance in the context of workplace culture, performance versus sustainability, right? So, cyber ignorance is a very clear and present danger. It's kind of a catastrophe, immediate catastrophe. One is the why I call it as immediate, clear and present danger is whether an individual level, employee level, or at a leadership level, it represents a critical vulnerability. When people don't know about cyber security and the latest AI threats, it can actually lead to wide-ranging consequences for the organization or for the country, right? In the geopolitical context, the workplace culture again, you need to foster a very robust culture, not a culture of negligence and lack of accountability. That is very risky. And if employees don't understand the risks, they won't prioritize security, and they'll opt for any risky behavior, right? And they'll not report any incidents. And generally, they'll have that feeling it won't happen to us mentality. That's very risky. So, coming to performance, it directly impacts the performance by leading to successful breaches, right? A single act of ignorance can actually bring down systems. Like many years ago, when I was playing the role of a CISO in a mid-sized company, we had a ransomware attack we detected at night 8 p.m. and it was all due to intern who joined and was not given proper security induction, because the business was very keen to onboard her and train her in the technical processes, and put her onto the production missions. So that created that lapse created havoc, because that intern was a fresher and never had any sort of security orientation, and she had just clicked the phishing email. uh, Came as a genuine email. It was impersonated email, a typical phishing email, and she thought it is a genuine email and clicked on the attachment, and that triggered a ransomware. I'm talking about 2016-17 types, right? So in today's scenario, it's all the more risky in a high alert region, especially uh, in defense establishments or armed forces or R&D centers, which is supporting the defense. These could have actually national security implications, right? And when it comes to burnout is nothing but the erosion, right? The danger here is in a cyber burnout scenario, it's prevalent. If it is prevalent among cyber security professionals in a very prolonged state of physical, emotional, mental exhaustion can caused by chronic exposure to cybersecurity stressors. So, which we normally see in SOC analysts, right? So, normally they don't like to stick on the same role for long, 1 2 years, even less than that, they quit and go because of the monotonous nature of work, and they get burnt out very faster. And the long hours and too much of alerts, what we call as alert fatigue, right? That also can lead to burnout and inefficiency. They may say, oh, this is something very routine, and they may not act on it, and that can actually prove to be a big problem later. So the workplace culture in this kind of scenario could be lead to a culture of quiet quitting, where quiet quitting again is a HR concept where people will be present in the company, they'll be part of the company and the team, but they will not do their best. They'll just be there, do the bare minimum, and get away. And they will have resentment and just enough mentality. It's enough to do this much, right? And this is all the more critical in a security team. So it reduces morale. Your attrition will be very high, and very difficult to recruit and retain talent in this kind of scenario. Performance directly impacts, right, the effectiveness of your cybersecurity defenses. And burnout impacts analysts, SOC analysts especially. They are prone to, as I said, the alert fatigue, and they could miss critical alerts and threats, and they could, it could result in human errors. When you look at the Verizon's DBIR report, right, data breach and incident response report, at least for the last few years, one of the top indicator for data breaches is human error, right? So they lack the cognitive capacity to understand, perceive the normal things that you would when you are in a right frame of mind, and this one actually lead to gradual decay. And this actually why it's very dangerous in the long term, because in the long term, a single act of ignorance can cause immediate havoc, and burnout erodes the very foundations of your cyber defense over time. So, what can leaders do especially in a high alert region, how to balance between these two, cyber ignorance as well as cyber uh, burnout?
Burnout.
So, how do you aggressively combat cyber ignorance? Right, it's a very immediate priority, because people who don't know the criticality of protecting cyber systems and don't have that awareness on the best practices, the do's and don'ts. They don't have a situational awareness. It's very risky. It's like flying blind, right? And one is the top-down mandate. Entire leadership should put the weight, preferably get board buy-in, and make it a security first culture initiative, and allocate necessary resources, budget, and empower the security teams. And second thing is continuous and training and engaging training. Today we have new gen, next gen coming in, the Gen Z. So you
Yeah.
have to make it very interactive, very funny, gamified training, not a plain Jane presentation alone. You have to give them rewards, recognize good behavior or security best practices, have tools like phishing simulation where you can simulate phishing attacks and reward them or resend them for training when they go wrong, right? So real world case studies can be taken up, and for different groups you can have a role based training, right? It's not a one size fits all, and have clear policies and procedures, right? And keep them up to date and keep it very accessible and very simple language where even non-security people can learn, read and understand, right? And have clear roles and responsibilities. These are all part of your organization structuring, right? And non-punitive reporting, that is to inculcate a very positive security culture. You should not if somebody is reporting issues, you should not take any retribution or revenge against them because they reported something. Rather, it should be welcoming to hear them out or have like a different ways and means for them to report and solve the issues. Any suspicious activities or even their own mistakes should not be viewed in a wrong way. And we also have to have that concept of human firewall, where you embrace the human firewall. That is, you treat people, your employees, are your first line of defense. This is something easy to say but very difficult to do, but it needs sustained this thing. So when you come to cyber burnout, how do you proactively address this concept of cyber burnout, where you have to ensure that the automation uh, happens via your AI powered security tools, be it XDR, MDR, or SOAR or SIEM, all these tools you can automate so that you can reduce the alert noise and prioritize critical threats, make the human analysts focus on strategic decision making rather than routine and mundane alert handling. Resource allocation has to be done so that there is adequate resources for your security teams, right, in terms of your manpower and tools, and workload management and rotation so that people don't get bored. You need to encourage digital detoxing also as part of your engagement of employees, and foster proper work-life balance, right? And there are very progressive companies which invest in mental health care also. They provide support. They tie up with specialist agencies which provide counseling and techniques how to and take care of your mental health, right? All these programs you can take into account. And how do you empower your security staff and IT staff with professional development initiatives? You can invest in continuous training so that they develop the capabilities, right, for AI related stuff, especially the offensive AI capabilities, and collaborate and recognize efforts when people do well. I mean, I'm talking more from the human aspect. So when you publicly recognize people, it can actually reinforce a very strong message, right? Uh, Positive message, and so it can help in building a very strong culture, security culture, right? Where you have open communication, you're open to collaborate, cross-functional collaboration, and also you share a sense of shared purpose that we are here to protect the organization against security risks and protect the data, right? So end of the day, the balance is very important in a high alert region. The leadership is everything. How leaders view and take those forward, and the kind of support they give, all of this makes it all the more very critical, right?
Yeah. So thank you for that, sir. We are off board the time that we had looked at, and as this
Oh
topic
my,
is vast, uh,
yeah,
the vast topic, and I wanted to summarize on again before we conclude. So we spoke about what war, the war you don't see, but but are already in. It can be anytime, right? You don't
yeah,
need a
yeah.
cybersecurity. You can be anytime there. On we spoke
So
about conflict is which can be reframe the battlefield where warfare means weapon is a code, right, not a missile. That's what we spoke about, kind of.
True,
Then we
true.
spoke about some of the challenges in ethical leadership and responsibility in automation of cyber weapons is what we spoke about. Then we
Yeah,
spoke about inside the machine tactics win cyber wars, right? So that's where how small nations are punching up the weight is what we spoke about, and what we can learn as a country is what we looked at. And some pointers on the defense of the important point that we coined out or we spoke about today was that data is the new oil and cyber defense is the refinery. So how vulnerability is the refinery in today's geopolitical heat. So that's one point we spoke about, and some of the lessons that we've learned in the war room, where the cyber part is to look at how we take that kind of a pointers. That's what we spoke about. And we spoke about something on how the traditional can become obsolete when AI is taking up, and where do we look at that's we think outdated assumptions, right? So that's one thing that we spoke about. And lastly, but we spoke about how the culture of the teams, workplace, performance, sustainability pointers that came into picture is what we spoke overall in the podcast
yeah.
today. We went off board by about 10 minutes. That's
Oh
fine
my.
because the topic is huge, and you can still talk for another 15-20 minutes if you have to look at the kind of pointers that we have to see in the cyberspace, right? Sir, with this, thank you very much being here. Any last words that you want to give in to that this one? We have two questions that have come. One is from I'll bring that here. Panduranga Reddy says great insights, and Mukesh says very informative. So these are two pointers which have come from LinkedIn. Other channels we will have to look at, and we'll respond to that, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, especially in a very momentous milestone episode like 250th. It's really uh, my honor to and privilege to be here on this particular episode. And thanks for having me here. And I hope the session was useful. I enjoyed, preparing for this particular. It's been a great learning experience for myself. I can
Sure.
only correlate with traditional cyber warfare with AI. It made a lot of sense, and India has a long way to
Yeah.
catch up. I'm sure we will definitely.
I think what we are saying is we will have to see how cyber doctrine for a regional AI threat and
Yeah,
what online manifestos is going to come up for India is what we'll have to look at, and see how
yeah,
the cyber AI side is going to be reframed is what we'll have to look at. I think that's
sure,
what.
sure.
Sir, thank you very much. With this, I think we will conclude the show, and with this, we are closing our milestone episode of 250th coming to an end with Dr. Ram Kumar being be here. Great insights from you, sir, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining, sir.
My pleasure.
Good day. Yeah,
Thanks. Thank you.
thank you.